Hello and welcome everyone. This is your astrology forecast for new moon in Cancer. This new moon happens on the 17th of July and it's very deep. It's not just a regular new moon in Cancer. It has a very strong focus on our emotional body, and I will be talking about it a lot because we put so much focus on our mental health, our mental processes, our intellectual abilities, but we don't know how to deal with emotional body, and we don't know how to feel things. So this new moon is very important to feel it, not actually to know which new moon is, or if this is full moon or new moon. It's not about knowing it, it's about feeling it. And we will all be feeling it to some degree, but it's very important to know that no matter how much we know about it, no matter how much we know about what is happening within ourselves, if we don't allow ourselves to feel it, we won't heal it. It's just like that. That's the law of how this works. That's the law of these energies. So we had full moon in Capricorn 2 weeks ago, and now we have new moon in Cancer. Cancer and Capricorn are two opposites, two polarities, but they, as I always say, they complete each other. They help each other grow. These dualities are necessary, and each sign in astrology has its pair of opposite. And this is how we build that whole circle. So the same is with us. Each part of us, each aspect of us has its own polarity. And this Cancer Capricorn is known as the points of ascension and descension of our spirit, of our soul. So the Capricorn is the gate of ascension, while the Cancer is the gate of descension. The Cancer is known as the womb, the cosmical womb, the place through which we are born into this world. So this is the embodiment. This is the first water sign. This is where we learn how to deal with our emotions. This is where we learn how to feel. And it's about giving birth to something, and especially because it's the new moon. New moon is when the sun and the moon are together. So we have the king and the queen of the zodiac together giving birth to something, but it feels very dark because during the new moon it's like the dark moon. We don't see the moon in the sky, it's invisible. And those 3 days prior to the new moon and the new moon, we don't see the moon in the sky, so it feels a bit empty because we are being emptied. So we are waiting for this new phase, this new chapter, this new story where we can fill these blank pages and empty states. But it's not really empty, it's not really nothing. It's that space within ourselves where we can find our source, but we feel uncomfortable being there. We don't feel comfortable being in that empty space because we don't know what to do with ourselves. We need someone to be there next to us, and this is where the mother issues and the father issues are being born. So we have Cancer and Capricorn. As I spoke about in the previous video, we have mother and father, inner and outer, private life, public life. Emotional security, material security, our need to be taken care of and our need to take care of, our need to be saved, our need to save. These are all the same issues, the same problems, but they go into different extremes, and we don't know where to meet with ourselves. We don't know how to meet ourselves in the middle. So this is about our emotional reset. This is about our emotional revolution. This is the time when we can truly feel emotional revolution. At least those of us who are ready to go into that cave within ourselves, but very few will dare to walk further into the cave to the point where we are not able to see the doors through which we have entered the cave anymore. So it's very it's very scary, of course, to walk alone through that dark cave and not being able to see the entrance anymore. But if we dare to walk towards that darkness, to walk into that unknown space, we will be able to be reborn, because this is our birth canal through which we are walking through right now because of this emotional revolution. And then we will have to have that trust, we will have to have the faith that the new doors will open for us as we walk through that cave. So this is emotional transformation, emotional rebirth, emotional death as well. We are going through emotional death and we are being emotionally resurrected. And this is pretty emotionally charged. And the question for us is, do we want to, are we able and ready to surrender, or do we still want to hang on to things and have things under our control? So we will see this strong tension and pressure between surrender and control. Are we surrendering or are we controlling? These two polarities will be felt, and we will see, because this new moon makes an opposition with Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008, and Pluto has moved out of Capricorn into Aquarius in March, but now it's back again in Capricorn. So it still has some unfinished business to do there, to finish. There are still some structures that need to be ruined, and these are our own structures, our own rules, our own limitations, our own regulations, our own imprisonments that we need to tear down. And we will see these ruins happening. So this new moon will trigger those unstable and toxic structures within ourselves, especially emotional structures, and our authority issues, parent issues, and our inner child issues. So we will be able to see how these subconscious programs are actually creating the world that we live in. And we will see that we have so many psychologists and psychotherapists and doctors, but where are those who deal with emotional body? So we have those who deal with our mental body, we have those who deal with our physical bodies, but we don't have anyone who will teach us how to deal with our emotions. That's very interesting. Where are those people who deal with emotions, and did anyone ever teach us how to deal with our emotions? No. We were always taught how to behave. It's all about behavior, but nobody taught us about how to process our feelings, how to sit down with our feelings, how to deal with the sadness, how to deal with anger, what to do with those things, how to feel them, how to allow ourselves to feel them. But no, we were probably being told, no, that's not good. It's not good to show this in the public. It's not good to behave like that in front of your friends. It's not good to behave like that with your partner. It's not good like this. It's not good like that. So this is what is wanted. This is what is needed. This is what is approved. This is what is disapproved. So we built these huge walls and prison cells within ourselves that are full of rules, and of course none of us can live free, emotionally free life. We are all somehow stiff inside. Even if we seem relaxed, there is always some kind of how would I say, it's emotional paralysis. We are emotionally paralyzed. So this new moon and each new and full moon, each strong Cancerian archetype, when it's present there, it has power to break our shells, to allow us to feel what we have to feel, and not necessarily to understand it or to intellectualize it or to explain it verbally or to explain it to ourselves, to cover it with some stories, to create some stories. No, this is not about stories, not about thoughts, not about understanding. This is about truly surrendering to the feeling. Just allow ourselves to feel, because we are afraid. Actually, it's not a fear, it's subconscious feeling that we are, if we allow those feelings to pass through us, we will die. But we won't, we will be reborn, rebirthed. So this is, our emotional and physical bodies are messengers of our soul. And this is a reminder that we need those emotional revolutions in life, in the world, and this may be echoed in the collective now, in the world, globally. So we may see, starting from now, in the future, we will see that those who deal with emotions, those who can help us emotionally, will start to show up in the world. Not only psychologists, not only psychotherapists, not only hypnotherapists, not only doctors, not only holistic healers, but concretely those who deal with subtle energies, with our emotional roots, with our core emotions, with our emotional wants and needs, with our emotional woundedness, with our need for safety, and our wounds that of abandonment, of rejection, of being left alone, of not being taken care of. And then I will talk about how these are then projected in our everyday life through seemingly insignificant actions that we do, and how this also reflects on our physical body and our health, because our emotions are actually the root cause of our physical state of being. But we somehow neglect these as not very valid, because there are some material, concrete things that brought to that problem. And emotions are invisible, they are not so visible, but we cannot ignore them when we feel them. We cannot ignore them, but we don't see them, so we somehow don't give them so much attention. And we may feel during this time that we may not really want to go out. We may want to stay home. We may deny going out. We may be antisocial. Not everyone, of course. In some people, they will have this need to stay at home, to be nurtured, to just shut down from the external world, to be detached from the outside world. Or we may see those who will want to be anywhere but home, who will be looking for home anywhere but at their home, who will be finding family outside of their family, who will do anything just not to come back home. So these kinds of extremes and polarities will be strong, and we will feel this detachment and attachment at the same time to our home, to our necessity to be taken care of, to our necessity to take care of, to our need to be understood, and our need to give compassion and understanding to others. And this is all rooted in our inability to detach from mother. This is mother as not only our concrete physical mother, but mother as an archetype, mother that exists, mother that is seen as all-giving being who is always there, full of understanding, full of love, full of unconditional understanding and love. But we don't see so often in our lives. So this is something that is imprinted in our bodies even before we were born. And then we have to deal with those issues. We have to overgrow them. So we are learning how to become our own mother and father. We are listening so often about reparenting ourselves. But what does it really mean? And again, we come to this, to that ability to take full responsibility of who we are. This is Cancer Capricorn polarity. We have Pluto in Capricorn, so Pluto will expose this shadow. Pluto will expose our inner child issues. Pluto will expose our our toxic, untreated traumas and needs, our childhood memories, our repressed and suppressed emotions, and we will have to deal with them, but not through understanding them, not through talking about them, but through allowing ourselves to feel them fully, allow those emotions to pass through us completely. And this inability to detach from mother will be very strong, and we will see this in many different shapes and forms, because we are all attached to the mother. We all came through mother. And as I forgot the name of one astrologer, evolutionary astrologer, never mind, but he said, when he talked about these Cancerian archetypes, he said there is a sentence that says, somebody come and save me, somebody come and take care of me, because my mother didn't. And this reflects in everyone, regardless of whether the mother was there or mother wasn't there, because we all carry this symptom of having a need to be taken care of or to take care of. And we will see this will be very strong, and vulnerability is very easily triggered during this time, and emotional catharsis is easily accessed as well. As we are pushed into that vulnerability, we will feel the emotional catharsis very easily accessed, and we will be inspired to dig into our depths. And this moon makes a supportive and harmonious trine aspect with Neptune in Pisces, and this is giving us a very much needed understanding on emotional level, not only emotional but on ethereal level. Pisces goes beyond water element, even though it's considered water element. I would say Pisces as the last sign, and Neptune as the modern ruler, they are very much about the transcendence, about everything that goes beyond the seen and visible and tangible and material. It is beyond the seen. It goes beyond the duality, and we will be helped to dig deep into those depths and to confront ourselves with that subtlety of Pisces. And some of us will be triggered to go into some hypnotherapies as well, which I'm not saying is bad, but as long as we are counting on those things as our final solutions, and we are delaying our confrontation with ourselves fully, and as long as we are delaying and procrastinating with allowing our emotions to be felt completely, we won't solve this problem. We will only delay it. We can temporarily bring some healing, but it will again come up. It will keep coming up and coming up. Of course, it will be coming up throughout our whole life, but the point is that each time it comes up, we have more inner strength and more growth within ourselves to again embrace it, to integrate it, to feel it easily, and not each time as it comes we have harder time to deal with it, so we push it further and further away, and so it becomes harder and harder to access it. So let's allow it to come to the surface. This is resurfacing now, and we are confronting those past traumas, and we are confronting the shadow, and this is about really purging those toxic patterns. It's all about cleansing, and this water of Cancer is here to help us wash it all away, and to help us to emotionally wash it all away. And these deep rooted feelings are easily provoked and evoked now, and we are diving into that inner contemplation. We don't need protection from uncomfortable emotions. We somehow always try to protect ourselves, But from what exactly? Why are we so much obsessed with protection? I hear that all the time. We are protecting ourselves from this and that, so we use all kinds of tools and techniques for protection. I mean, that's fine. I'm not saying it's not good and we shouldn't use it, but we are so obsessed with that protection that we forget how to live. So we are consuming all kinds of things in order to protect ourselves. So this new moon in Cancer in opposition with Pluto in Capricorn can make us overly protective, just as the mother is overly protective for her child. But we may project this trauma and this need into our everyday life over small things. We may be overprotective of everything. So this is why we are easily emotionally triggered, and we may have violent reactions even, because our emotions are very uncontrollable. We don't have control over our emotions. That's why I say, are we going to surrender or to live in that control state of being? And this is truly pushing us into emotional release. When we understand that we don't really need that protection, we are just surrendering to it and allowing all those emotions to pass through us, even though if they will kill us, but they will actually heal us. So are we afraid of being healed? That's the right question. And because what is left then, if we don't have that kind of suffering or that kind of trauma or that kind of need, what are we going to do then? What are our mental processes about then in that moment? How are we going to deal with that kind of freedom? Are we mature enough to accept and receive emotional freedom? Or are we still in a need to have those experiences where we have to fight, where we have to struggle, where we have to suffer, where we have to experience some tough love in order to dive deeper and deeper and deeper until we reach the very bottom of our being, Neptune in Pisces, and be able to go through that self-healing mode. And of course, sometimes we need help from the outside. We need help from doctors, we need help from psychologists, from psychotherapists, from hypnotherapists, from shamans, from gurus, from holistic healers and all kinds of healers. But eventually we do it on our own. Eventually nobody can do it for us. Somebody can show us the way, but we have to walk through that. We have to be on the path. And this is the release of all emotional burdens. We may not really have, as I said, a need to socialize that much these days. We have a need to be held, a need to be taken care of, to be nurtured and nourished. And we have to nurture ourselves on the inside. And this is an inside job. We can truly feel awakened through taking care and through honoring our inner journey. But this is very, as I said, it's a complex one. It talks about those things that we cannot really explain verbally. And this is about love, scars, and healing. Our love scars and our healing scars. And they may be the same. Cancer represents the midnight. It's the very bottom of the chart. We have Capricorn on top of the chart, the 10th house, and we have Cancer, 4th house at the very bottom. Nadir, Imum Coeli. This is our core emotional state of being. And the very bottom of the zodiac, the tomb and the womb all at once. Even though I said in the previous video that the Cancer is the womb, the Capricorn may be the tomb, but this is just in explanation of polarities. But when we look one aspect of it, we can see that all other aspects are also into that one. And we are confronted with those emotional challenges in a very lively way. We are, establishing those emotional relationship with ourselves is very tricky. And emotions do not respond well to mental analysis or to verbal directives. Our emotional body impacts our mind, and our thoughts, of course, influence our emotions. but the language of our emotions is delicate. It's about feelings, not mental talk. So we can't talk ourselves out of emotional traumas. We can't make logical sense out of how we feel, even though we may try to. But that's why we can talk about these things so much. We can get lost in those labyrinths of talking about ourselves, of expressing our issues, of expressing our problems. We can talk about this for days and for years and lives. But it's our emotional nature. If it was just a matter of intellectual and mental scenario where we have the cause and effect, the problem and solution, then we would all be emotionally balanced. But we don't have that. It's not about that. It's about, as I said, this midnight point of Cancer is the darkest place in our psyche. It's the darkest place in the chart. So we receive the least light from the outside. We don't have any light. This is like when we are in the womb. There is no light there. But when light is not available from the outside, we must find it within ourselves. This is why it's so good to be in that place. And when love is not available from outside, we must give it to ourselves. This is how we learn. And this search for self-love is the major adventure and journey of the Cancer archetype. And we have to understand that the message of this new moon is internal, emotional, feeling reality. And it's about our inner foundations. And our task is to experience the feeling as the base of our cross. During this time, we have a strong cardinal cross activation. Cardinal cross means that cardinal signs are all triggered and active. Cardinal signs are Aries and Libra on the horizontal line of the chart, and Cancer and Capricorn on the vertical side. So they create the cardinal cross. Aries, Libra, and Cancer and Capricorn. And Aries and Libra are very much active right now, because on the same day when we have this new moon in Cancer, we have another big shift happening, and that is the shift of the nodes, of the moon's nodes. So we had the North Node and the South Node in Taurus, Scorpio for the last 18 months. And that is why we have experienced eclipses in Taurus, Scorpio. But now we have the shift of these nodes from Taurus, Scorpio into Aries, Libra. Nodes move backwards. They are always in retrograde motion. So now the North Node is moving from the first degrees of Taurus into the last degrees of Aries. And it begins another 18 cycle where we will experience eclipses in these areas of our relationships. And the South Node will enter Libra, and we will see the lower vibrations of Libra, because the South Node is the point that shows our attachments, where we are strongly attached to our past. And the lower vibrations of Libra is about people pleasing. So we will be seeing a lot of this, and this is all related to our emotions and our emotional needs and rejections and suppressions. So this people pleasing theme will be strong, and it will show up. These lower vibrations are also including passive aggressive behavior, because we don't really do what we want, so then we behave in passive aggressive way. So we say yes when we really mean no. For example, we will experience many of these, and we may feel those inner fires and implosions coming up. But this is good, because we need to break free from something. And these kinds of things make us sacrifice our own priorities for others. And we will see how we have been doing this throughout our life. It also causes us to keep peace at all costs. no matter if the price is too high, we want to keep peace no matter what. So these kinds of issues will be strong in the next 18 months, and we'll see themes of codependence and also inability to make a solid decision, and frustrations and irritations over who we are and who we are when we are in a relationship, and how our emotional needs, how our parental issues, how our authority issues are reflected then in our relationships. So we will see where we have sacrificed our truth in order to be polite, in order to be accepted, and what we have done by sacrificing our own truth. We have been killing ourselves slowly but surely. So it will be crystal clear during this time when we are people pleasing, and when we are doing things really for the sake of doing them, and not for the sake of pleasing others. And this is a reminder to stand in our own truth. It's the time of decisions. We will have to stand up for ourselves. North Node is in Aries. North Node shows where we should turn towards to. So we will have to embrace ourselves. We will have to show who we are, even if that means that some people may have to leave our space. But of course, this will be active in the next 18 months. It's a process. So Aries teaches us to stand up for ourselves and our truth. And it helps us take decisive actions and true decisions and stick to them. And it's not about being selfish, as many would interpret this North Node in Aries. It's not about being selfish or hurting others. It's about understanding that we have to align with our true wants and needs, and to put ourselves first, and then the entire collective will align with ourselves. And this is an opportunity for us to heal that wound of identity, because we have Chiron, the wounded healer, in Aries, and the North Node will cross Chiron, and the eclipses will touch and activate Chiron during the next 18 months. So we will have a lot of opportunities to open this identity wound and to see what's missing, to see how we need to deal with our emotional body and physical body, and to say things with an open heart, to challenge ourselves and to raise our vibration by fighting for the life that we know we are meant to live, and not just living life to pass through it or to survive it, but to truly understand that we are here to live that life. So we will understand that emotions truly run our reality show of life, and we can't simply release our negative emotions by projecting them outside of ourselves. We are obliged to feel those feelings in our own bodies. The more we feel them, the more we get in touch with our negative emotional conditioning, and we become aware of this subconscious programming, so we can release it and free ourselves. But we have to understand that these things will affect us even deeper and stronger if we just push them aside. So it's not really surprising that the disease cancer has the name as the Cancer archetype. It's not a coincidence, because most illnesses have a strong emotional root cause. They are all rooted in emotional disbalance, and it is also known that stress is a major cause of many diseases, but the root of stress is emotional dysfunction. It's emotional disbalance. So we often ignore and deny this emotional source of illness, and this is also one reason why it's so hard to heal those things, why it's so hard to find cure. And in the same way as our emotional body cannot truly respond to intellectual solutions, as I spoke about at the beginning, in the same way illness cannot really respond to raw medical technical solutions. A pill or some other thing that is created, that is genetically engineered, cannot replace the love that we need. It cannot replace authentic human love. It cannot replace the love from mother that we need. It cannot replace the love that we need to give to ourselves. So this is the journey of finding that love within ourselves. And we definitely fall into many traps in this realm, but this is how we fall and we learn. We fall and we learn. And in our quest for love, we will do anything. We will even get sick. And this is about getting attention. And when we reorient this journey inside ourselves, this is where the healing can begin. So we begin to generate experience of love, and our emotional and physical bodies, they have their own intelligence. And if we pay attention, they will always tell us what we need. And their impulses do not necessarily show what we consciously think or do or say. That's why we may be confused by how, but like, who would wish for sickness or disease? Of course, no one, but this is happening on subconscious level. These emotional and physical bodies are very much intertwined, and most of us are unaware of how our body and emotions respond to primal needs, to environmental demands, and how they respond to stress. So we have to truly work on listening to those messages, to listening to our emotional body. And one of those unconscious tactics is actually to get sick, to get attention. And we know this is truly happening because this is what we have learned while growing up. If we get sick, we get some attention. If we are crying, we get some attention. If we are screaming, we get some attention. So what are our subconscious programs doing when we have a strong need for understanding, for love, for compassion? It gets sick if it doesn't receive what it needs. So our upsetting and unresolved emotional stress, it adds up to our nature, and it creates the disease actually. So we are truly unaware of how these emotions make us sick. Even when we become aware, we don't know how to prevent it from happening. So awareness of how these emotional things are working, that's truly the beginning of the healing journey. But it's not the whole solution. It's not only the observation. It's not only being aware. It's not only being conscious of it. We have to, create a true relationship with our emotional body. We have to have that non-verbal attention with ourselves, and this is where our inner child pops up. And this very famous modern term for our untreated traumas and our unresolved issues from the childhood, and all our desires that we had as a child that we didn't receive. Every time that we wanted to say something, that we were saying something to our mother or father or sister or brother or whoever, but we were ignored, or they didn't listen, or they were talking about some grown-up things and didn't have time to listen to our creative solutions. All these things, they don't have to be big traumas, as I always say, they can be seemingly insignificant moments like these, where we just, pull our mother or father by a sleeve and trying to tell them something we're excited about, but they don't have time to listen because they are dealing with something more important. So these kinds of things, they are all stored into that inner child place. So imagine these insignificant small things. So imagine some bigger issues that many of us have had during their childhood upbringing. So imagine how they affect our emotional and physical body. And this is where we have to truly learn how to love ourselves and how to have that self-compassion, but not in a self-victimizing mode, of course. This is where this Neptune in Pisces can help us to get out of this victimization mode, where we are complaining or feeling guilty or feeling abandoned or feeling whatever, or we project this need onto others and we feel pity for others. We feel others as victims. We want to save them. Or there is more. We numb ourselves and we become completely cold and detached from the world, and we don't feel anyone else's pain. We don't feel our own pain, or we feel that our pain and our suffering is the greatest and biggest in the world. There are many, as you can see, different manifestations of the same issue, of the same problem. And we have to give ourselves a break and not be so hard on ourselves. But we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be truly open with ourselves. And, when we try to avoid being emotional, we are escaping into our minds, where we, create those stories about our feelings and emotional body. And those stories won't help us. As I said, they can only give some temporary moment of satisfaction. So this Cancer archetype is the archetype of the Great Mother, the giver of life. And we are all birthed from the Mother, and the Mother lives within us. And it's the Mother, the Divine Mother, sustains every one of us throughout our lives. The Great Mother sustains the whole life. And there was also one great quote, I forgot from whom, but it said, in order to resolve all our issues or traumas, we have to resolve our issue and trauma with her, referencing to the Great Mother, to our relationship with nature, to our relationship with our feminine principle, to our relationship with our intuition, with love, with beauty. So we live in a concrete, dense world where everything is based on fight to survive principle. But this is changing. If we want to heal, we have to change our approach and attitude for life. We sometimes have to be vulnerable. And I hear many stories about, those centralized or decentralized systems and models, but no one has ever mentioned a heart centralized system. It's like we never talk about emotions, we never talk about feelings, we never talk about building a system that is rooted and based on healthy emotions. That is why I'm saying that this is emotional revolution. This new moon can trigger an avalanche that will, of course, be in the process for who knows how long, but it can bring the emotional revolution in our system, in our global world, in the collective world. So we must dive deep into our feelings and deep into our inner world where creation begins. So to change what and how we manifest in our lives, we have to begin with our subconscious and the programming that rules our inner reality. So our subconscious is actually programmed by our early experiences with our mother and how we were mothered. So how have we been nurtured and loved determines how how those imprints, those childhood imprints, mother imprints, translate into a sense of safety, security, and trust in self. So part of our healing is realizing that we don't have to defend ourselves or use emotional manipulation to try to get what we want, or to prove that we are worthy of something. But we do use these manipulations unconsciously. As I said, these manipulations where we are either crying, getting sick, manipulating, detaching or attaching too strong, saving everyone else but ourselves, focusing too much on negative emotions, focusing too much on traumas from the past, all in need for attention. But we don't give that attention to ourselves. We are running away from giving attention to ourselves. So how can we expect to be given that attention back? This is, we have to be willing to be vulnerable within ourselves. And the question is, how many wake-up calls do we need to receive in order to wake up? How many times are we going to, hit that snooze alarm button until we wake up? This will be, it can become very extreme during this time. It can become almost impossible by the intensity of feelings. So we have to find our way to deal with them, to sit with them, to just allow them without any mental process, without any analysis, without any word, just being silent and feeling them, feeling it in our body. Just feel. Repeat that as a mantra. Allow feelings to pass through you. Allow feelings to pass through you. They won't kill you, they will heal you. So this is about experiencing safety and finding our comfort zone by connecting to our earthly home, family, and our inner womb. This is what we want as human beings. But we have to stay tuned to our feelings and to allow ourselves to feel uncomfortable there, because the comfort will come. Just as when we enter the cold water, this is also very strong water element energy. So water is very important, and it's very good to be somewhere near water, or to do any kind of thing with water, to just become more aware of water and to learn from water more and more. So the water has the power to cool us down, to calm us down, to let us feel everything that it has to be felt. And just as we, when we enter the cold water, it is uncomfortable. It can even be painful. We don't have time to think when we are entering the cold water. Thinking is shut off. We cannot think. We only feel. We feel it in our body. Those are sensations. But the longer we stay in that cold water, it becomes more and more comfortable, and it becomes healing. So this is the same. It's the good allegory for understanding, to trust that our soul is guiding us. The Cancer archetype teaches us to feel what is right. And the glyph of the Cancer is very much related to DNA spiral, to double helix spiral, to that. But it's just manifested, it's shown in a different way in the crab. But we also have the two spirals, one and the other, intertwined. And also the breasts, the feeding of the cosmos, the feeding of whole humanity, the Milky Way, and the milk from the breasts of mother. So we have to feel nurtured and nourished. The food is also very much, of course, connected with all of this. So again, when we have these issues, we show those emotional issues also through the way we eat. Our food, our compulsive eating, or denial of food completely. So then we have problems of all kinds, of course, again with physical disease. But this is all rooted in emotional. It's not only food. That the way we eat And what we eat is also rooted in our emotional state of being, in those core emotions. But in our culture, we have been trained to believe that we have to mentally figure everything out. We have to mentally be, because the intellectuals, the smart and clever ones, feeding of the mind constantly. But we have overfed our minds with all kinds of things, including a lot of trash. So in Cancer territory, intellectual strategies really don't work very well. So we have to stay in the flow of what feels right. Feelings are the language of emotions. So only through feeling awareness, not thinking it, we can find that way. So we are challenged to actually feel, to trust and follow our feelings. We have to process, to go through that hurt, through that anger, through fear, through sadness, through anger, through rage. We have to go through those processes and dive deep enough to find that inner core of truth of who we are. And Cancer represents the source, the root energy, the creative cause of what desires to be birthed from our existence. So new life can emerge only when we have the right environment to nurture and feed the newborn. So we have to have appropriate environment. So we have to work on creating this environment for ourselves. This is not just empty space. As I said at the beginning, we may feel empty, but it is sacred emptiness because it contains the infinite creative source. And in the fact, the whole process of that creation is actually very sacred. So we are not alone or empty. That infinite source lives within ourselves. But as I said, we have to walk through that cave and be daring enough to walk far enough and not to turn back and search for the exit and come back to get out of it. But we have to be brave enough to walk through it. And Cancer is a lot about being brave, but not brave in the way of Aries or Leo or other signs brave, but brave in a more subtle way. Brave to truly feel all that we have to feel. Brave to sit down when we would rather get up and do things just to avoid the feelings that we have. So we have to get in touch with our emotional roots, where we can feel safe. It's our safety zone, and we understand that emotions drive our life. So it's about experiencing how those emotions drive they drive all our actions. So we can have all kinds of things, we can have amazing goals in life, amazing brilliant ideas, we can have success, we can have families, we can do all kinds of things, but if those things are not supported by our inner emotional willingness to do or have what we dream of, then nothing is going to happen in the way we intended. Nothing will fill that void, that emptiness that we are feeling. So this is about our internal and external needs, and our deepest emotional needs relate to survival. So we have to feel and be secure. So we ultimately want to feel good, to feel comfortable, and to feel safe. And we want to relax and flow with the currents of life. And we may see how our needs change as environment changes. So, for example, when we are not having material stability, when we are fighting to have that material stability, our primal needs are the needs for, having things to survive, for food, for just having anything to eat, just to survive when we have nothing. So when we have a little bit higher level of comfort, then our needs change. So then we have some other needs. Then we maybe want some better food, or we want some different kind of comfort. But when we have complete all of these material needs, what kinds of needs then arise? Then we have different kinds of needs. Then these needs come to surface, these deeper needs. So then why we see so many people who have a lot of money spending it on stupid things and spending on just buying things, because they are trying to fill that emptiness. They are trying to do it in a different way. They think that externally they can somehow bring the temporary pleasure, but it's impossible. So we see how eventually, no matter what, eventually we come again to that emotional root cause of it all, to that inner child who feels unseen and unheard, and this inner child feels abandoned. So we all these needs and desires are actually internal. The problem is when we try to satisfy them externally, they never get satisfied. We only crave more. So we never reach a satisfaction point. We never feel comfortable, and we can never relax, and we are always in a state of stress. And the solution is to really work on another way to get our emotional needs met, which is not based on external factors, but it's about really nurturing that inner state that works with our physical and emotional body. We have to develop feelings that create peace and satisfaction. So we must create an internal center that commands our will and is directed by our emotional willingness. Nothing else can solve this problem. Nothing else. And we have to be brave enough to stop, to just stop, to stop long enough to feel how uncomfortable we feel. Because when we stop with all our actions, with all our restless thoughts and actions, we will feel how stressed we are, how uncomfortable we feel. And we can easily get in touch with the fact that something very deep is wrong. And we will see that we never really felt loved or accepted at a very deep level. Even if our mother loved us, of course, or father loved us, but we never really felt that way, because we were always expecting to receive it from the others. So our attention has been turned outward to please others, instead of focusing on our own personal development, where we are building honest, self-directed and authentic being. So we have to find that internal center. It's about building that spiritual path where we shift the attention from the outside to inside. And we are being invited on this journey during this new moon to awaken that feeling of inviting our feelings to be felt through our body completely. And we must truly let our feelings and emotions guide us. And we somehow always fall into the same trap, because Cancer archetype, it has its shadow, of course, and this new moon, this shadow will be exposed because of the Pluto in Capricorn. And it's inviting us. It's good. It's not something bad. It's not there to make us suffer. It's not there to punish us in any way. It's there to invite us to come home to our feelings, to honor our feelings, to listen to our feelings, to take our feelings and inner child needs into account, and to listen, to nurture, to feel like we belong. And we may have this negative belief about ourselves. So we are faced with everything that we have suppressed, denied, hidden, avoided. This is negative belief or weakness, something that we don't like about ourselves. And if we showed it to other people, they wouldn't like us. This is typical, classical shadow exposure. And this goes on from very early on. We learn this mechanism and we just, repeat this mechanism. So, mother and father, maybe didn't want something and we wanted it. So this also creates this problem. Or, for example, I don't know, they don't want something in their house. For example, if you were a child and you wanted a pet, but they didn't want the pet. These simple kinds of things, not to talk about some bigger issues, but these simple things, they create these problems. If we got ashamed about something, that part of us is seen as bad or wrong. And this dark shadow element, it goes very deep, and we don't acknowledge it consciously, but it's there. It motivates a lot of our choices, and it's primal fear. Primal fear that's making our choice. So primal fear of cancer is abandonment. It's about isolation, separation, loneliness, emotional detachment, no connection, no mother to hold me, no safety, nobody around who's going to nurture me, to feed me, to prepare a meal, to cook for me, to make my bed, to clean my house, to get me to work, to get me to school, or anything like that. So these are primal fears, and we are all living with these fears within ourselves. Even if we understand them, we haven't processed them emotionally. As I say many times, we may know something, but how can we align what we know with what we feel? Because we have to feel those things, but we constantly run away from feelings into mental explanations, into verbal explanations. So inner child really wants to be nurtured, and we have a fear that we won't be able to do it. We are weak to nurture ourselves, to take care of ourselves, and to grow up, to be strong, to be safe and secure with who I am, to be my own mother and my own father, and not to be in need for those things externally. And this shadow, this fear that I can't take care of myself, these things can motivate us to manipulate people, to manipulate my relationships, to manipulate myself even, so that somebody else is always taking care of me in some way, or that I'm creating someone else unable to take care of themselves, so I am there always to take care of you. Don't worry, I will always be there to take care of you. This is the same issue. Just as the mother won't let her child grow up and leave the home, this is the same issue. So the child doesn't want to leave home because it feels guilty. It feels guilt for leaving the mother, and mother doesn't want to let the child grow up. It wants the child to always be the child, to take care of it, because mother cannot take care of herself, and the child cannot take care of itself either. So this is one very, very complex bond. So somebody's always there for me, or I am always there for somebody. So I'm not abandoned, I'm not left alone. It can be just simple things, that we can see these issues. Where are they being expressed? Through what? So, for example, leaving things around house, just leaving them everywhere, leaving stuff laying around because somebody else is gonna pick it up. If we are living with others, of course, somebody else will pick it. Or even if we are living alone, we will do this unconsciously, because that is that subconscious program. We cannot take care of ourselves. We need someone else to take care of ourselves. Or simple things, not cleaning after ourselves because somebody else will do it for us. Or again, cleaning after everyone, because we are the ones who take care of them, because then they become codependent on us. These are, the use of guilt as well in relationships is very strong. You owe me, I did that for you, oh, I owe you, I will never be able to repay to you, or don't abandon me, you've got to be there for me, don't leave me alone. Those are all limitations and blackmails. Actually, these are emotional blackmails, but we don't see them that way. We see them as something normal, we see them as something that we have right to do, but we will never achieve any state of happiness and fulfillment in doing these kinds of things. We have to take full responsibility of ourselves and feel all these things. This is happening below the level of consciousness, and these emotional manipulations and dominations of our friends, our families, our people who are closest to us, in order to make them do things for us out of fear that we cannot provide that for ourselves, or vice versa. This will be strongly exposed during this time. So we don't want to get out of our room, we don't want to get out of our bed, we don't want to make a meal for ourselves, we don't want to eat, we need somebody else to do it for us. Or we go into another extreme, as I talked about. We may fall into multitasking, into doing all kinds of things, just not to think about it, just not to feel. Or we may get lost in mental loops, mental work, strong mental work, just to do things, just not to think about it. So this is very very interesting time that we are alive now, because this is also another initiation into another new chapter, into another cycle within a cycle, where we can truly work with our emotions and feel that emotional revolution, and not trying so hard to be everything to everyone, or to explain ourselves to others, or to try to tell others how we feel. And there is a great quote. It's a quote in the form of question, and it says, "Is it really possible to tell someone what one feels?" This is, I think, from Tolstoy, Anna Karenina. Yeah, is it really possible to tell someone else what one feels? And we should let go of that. We should let go of trying so hard to please others, to explain ourselves, to verbalize our feelings, to put them on the screen or on the paper or anywhere. This is not how we are going to heal those things. These are all helping tools, they can help, but this is not what is going to clear and clean, to do that deep cleaning of those subconscious imprints. So we have to truly feel, and to allow ourselves to walk through that cave, to trust that the new door will open there, that the new door will show us the new hallways of our inner world, of our subconscious labyrinths and underworlds. And Venus goes retrograde now on the 22nd, 23rd of July, and she will be retrograde until 4th of September, and she will be in Leo until 8th of October. And Venus retrograde will help us on this path, because Venus retrograde means that we are descending into the underworld. We are being stripped away from everything material, and we have to deal with our own feelings. It's about self-love eventually, but not that selfish love, not that kind of self-love that we are learning it's bad, but self-love of understanding through our feelings, feeling our awareness, not talking about it, feeling everything, not having a need to explain it, not having a need to put it in words and talk about it endlessly, but just to be brave and walk into that cave and forget about the entrance. Just walk, just keep walking, and don't be afraid that those emotions will kill you, because I promise you they will heal you. That's it. Love you all, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.